Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are here for the second to last retrospect review, and we're going to be talking about Ninjago Season 8, Sons of Garmadon. So the season had 10 episodes, pretty much like every other season past, and yeah, the season premiere was the Mask of Deception, and we had actually gotten the first heist scene released in the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, and yeah, that scene was pretty amazing, I really gotta say. I really love the heist scene, and the soundtrack was amazing. And it was a great starter scene for Sons of Garmadon. And yeah, so the next episode after that was the Jade Princess, which was a kind of boring episode and a little bit slow, but I did like the Sons of Garmadon heist scene, the attack scene on the palace. I thought that was done pretty nicely, and it was very fun to watch as well. And then after that, the Oni and the Dragon, it was fun to see Mistake back, as she hadn't really truly appeared in the show since Season 2, actually. And yeah, it was pretty fun to see her back. She had been recast, and yeah, her voice is really, really annoying. But anyways, it was fun to learn about the Oni and Dragon as well. So that was pretty nice, and I really liked the backstory in this episode. Snake Jaguar also introduced the character of Kilo and was pretty much a focus episode for Zane. And I thought it was a pretty good episode for the most part. I liked the race aspect. It was a lot like the Ninja Ball Run episode. And that was pretty fun to watch as well. And after that, Dead Man Squall was also an amazing episode. This episode was essentially the conclusion to the Samurai X subplot that had started back in Season 7, and it revealed it to be Pixel, as we all knew at that point. And I really loved the fight between Pixel and the ninja. It was done really nicely, and I think Pixel's return as a human, as a physical character, was a really good decision on the writer's part. And then the Quiet One was a much slower episode, but it did give us time to focus on Lloyd and Harumi. And I liked how the relationship was developed, but we also learned that Harumi was the quiet one and that Wu was the baby as well. And Game of Masks is, I think, my second favorite episode of the season. This episode was amazing, and I love how Harumi just truly reveals herself to be the villain. And yeah, that fight with Lloyd that she has is pretty emotional, actually. Just imagine being Lloyd. It's very tormenting, I'm sure, just sitting there while your love interest actually turns out to be evil and insulting you and all this kind of stuff. So I did think that was done really well, and it was an amazing scene to watch as well, especially when she does put on the Mask of Hatred. That was a pretty cool plot twist. And Dread on Arrival was a really cool episode because we got to see how exactly the Oni Masks were used to resurrect Lord Garmadon, and I do think that it was done pretty well, and seeing Harumi in a new costume was also really cool to see as well as the return of Misako. And True Potential was an amazing episode. This is my favorite episode of the season. And it details Garmadon's return and his fight with Lloyd after he does come back from the dead. And I think this episode was done really well. The fight was very, very emotional, had amazing scoring. And yeah, now the season finale, Big Trouble in Little Ninjago, was also a very great episode. And I loved how there was quite a lot going on from the introduction of the Colossus and Garman and Harumi putting on the Mask of Hatred. And Garmadon, meeting up with Misako again first time since his death, actually. I thought that was done really nicely, and the episode had a lot going on. And even down to that scene where the Colossus destroys the bounty, very emotional, and getting to see the first drum for the first time in the series, actually. I feel like the plot of Sons of Garmadon was kind of generic. It was one of Ninjago's fill-in-the-blank plots, in which pretty much we do have this villain that comes out of nowhere, and they have to collect these artifacts to do this, and blah, 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 and there's some ultimate evil and some stuff. So it was pretty generic in that sense, but I feel like Sons of Garmadon also brought something new to the table. It continued several stories that Hands of Time introduced, such as Wu's story and the Samurai X story as well, and I feel like those were done pretty well. Wu's story didn't really start to develop until Season 9, but this was a nice little introduction. And I did like the way how the Samurai X story ended, with it being Pixel, and I think that was a great decision, as I've already said, to bring Pixel back into Ninjago as a physical character, and I thought that was done really well. Harumi is a great villain, and she's definitely one of my favorite villains, second favorite villain in the series, and I think what really is great about her character is that she definitely has a lot of emotion, and I think she actually thinks she's doing the right thing. She thinks that Garmadon would be a great ruler, and I think that in that sense, Harumi really is a great villain. And it was nice to see a female villain because all the villains past were male, and it was pretty fun to see Harumi as a character, how she goes from being an innocent princess to Lloyd's love interest to being the main villain of the season, actually. And I think she is a great villain. Now, there is one villain who I do like more, and that is actually Lord Garmadon. That is my favorite character as well as villain. But I feel like he was kind of lost in Season 8, and I didn't really like the way he was in Season 8. However, I did love Garmadon in Season 9 and Season 10 so far, and Yes, but in season 8, I felt like he was kind of lost and he wasn't even doing much. And I'm sure this was all intentional and all. But his voice sounded a lot deeper and he just sounded weird. But then again, I mean, he just came back from the dead, right? So obviously he shouldn't be normal. So I do think it is better when you look at it compared to Hunted and March of the Oni. So I didn't really love Garmadon right off the bat. But looking back on it, I think that was the right decision to make with Garmadon. And I really love that he came back with his powers. That's something that we hadn't really seen. He had never really been that powerful, actually, at any point in the series. Even when he had the golden weapons, he never really had his own true power. I did like the focus on Lloyd. This was Lloyd's focus season, and it was pretty appropriate considering that the villains were going to revive Lord Garmadon. And yeah, Lloyd's last focus season was season 2, or season 5 if you count that. I personally do count season 5 as a Lloyd season, but it wasn't really a strong focus on Lloyd. And I think this was also needed as Lloyd had matured a lot, and actually he was really new, and we really hadn't seen Lloyd like this at all in the series. And yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about, the design changes. So this is the first season following the Lego Ninjago movie, and as we know, the ninja were all redesigned for that movie, and that was something really controversial. And I do still have mixed feelings about the designs. I've had these feelings from the beginning. I think that Lloyd and Cole's, their designs are really great. Jay's design is nice as well, and Zane hasn't really changed much, but I really, really dislike Nia and Kai. Even to this day, I really hate their designs. But, there's nothing really to be done about that. I think the design changes were nice, and it was something a little different for Ninjago. It was a change that we needed, especially after watching Hands of Time, which was a pretty boring season in my eyes. I think this change was something that was really nice. And they made it different with also Lloyd being recast. It was different because they used that opportunity to actually say that Lloyd had matured and he had gone through puberty, I guess you could say. And I think that was a great decision to take this design change and this recasting and turn this into an area of development for Lloyd and actually make it that he had matured and he had grown up. And I think that was a great idea. The Sons of Garman were pretty cool, but they were in the end just really normal people on bikes. But I did like the generals, the idea of the Sons of Garman generals. Mr. E is a very cool character, and I like that he doesn't talk. That's definitely something different for a character. Ultraviolet isn't bad either. Killo's just okay. A lot of people do have problems with Killo, myself included. I just kind of find him to be boring and cringy, you could say. Many of his lines were pretty poorly written in the season, and same goes for season 9 as well. But yeah, I also like the concept of the Oni Masks. They are pretty cool artifacts, and I like their powers as well. I feel like the 4 arms thing is kind of repetitive at this point, but it was fine. I didn't have a huge problem. And the turning to stone thing for the Mask of Hatred was fine as well. So yeah, I really did like this season. I also liked the roles that Cole and Zane played. They both had somewhat big roles in this season. So I thought that was nice. Cole doesn't really have a big role. He's never really had a big role in the season. So I think this was, he's never really had a big role in the series, my bad. So I think Cole's role in this season was actually pretty nice for the most part. Now, I did feel like the plot was kind of generic. I've said that already. And some of the beginning episodes were boring. Mask of Deception, that episode, with the exception of the high seat, was a pretty boring episode. And the same can be said about the Jade Princess as well, except for the Sons of Garmadon attack. But this season was really great, I think. And it definitely brought a lot of new things to Ninjago. And it was filled with humor as well. And I really love what the season did. So it is my 4th favorite Ninjago season as of now. And I think I would probably have to give this season a 9 out of 10. It was a great season, actually, and I think it was done really well. And yeah, so that is all for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone everyone you know, and leave a comment down in the comment section below of what you thought of Season 8. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.